How can a single word, a word written down in a dictionary almost 200 years ago, completely redefine a god? And how can that one word shape a culture's perception and spark a poet's journey through history, travel, and even tragedy? Well, today, let's dive into Kola Tubasun's incredible poetry collection, Eshu at the Library. So, at the very heart of this whole story is Eshu, a Yoruba deity or an Orisha. But who is he really? On the one hand, he's seen as this trickster, a messenger, a kind of divine philosopher. But on the other hand, he's been labeled the devil, a demon, Satan himself.
You've got to wonder, right? How did we even get here? How can one single entity embody such complete opposites? That question right there is the key that's going to unlock this entire story for us.
To figure this all out, we first have to go back and really understand the true nature of Eshu, before his entire identity was basically rewritten.
See, in Yoruba tradition, Ishu isn't about some simple good versus evil fight. Not at all. He represents the unpredictable, that random thing that can happen in life. He's a figure of deep complexity and nuance, embodying the idea that, hey, reality always has more than one side. He's the one who challenges those simple answers. Okay, so if that's the case, where in the world did this whole devil definition come from? Well, let's zoom in on a single historical moment, a moment where one word set off a massive cultural and linguistic collision. It all started right here. In 1843, a Nigerian Anglican bishop, Samuel Ajayi Crowther, published a vocabulary of Yoruba. And what's so wild is if you look closely at this page, right under the entry for devil, you see it, one word, Eshu. This was the moment of impact. This changed everything. And this wasn't just some one-off mistake. As you can see right here, the exact same translation pops up again under demon and Satan. A complex, nuanced deity was being systematically flattened, totally reframed through a colonial, Christian lens that forced him into a Western box that he just didn't fit in. And this quote from the scholar Olusope Oyalaran just hits the nail on the head. He points out that the whole concept of good and evil as this rigid, two-sided thing, it doesn't really exist in indigenous Yoruba thought. So the mistranslation wasn't just wrong. It was imposing a completely different worldview. Okay, so now let's fast forward over 170 years. This linguistic puzzle becomes an obsession for the poet and linguist Kola Tubasun, and he decides he's going to trace this word all the way back to its source. In the fall of 2019, his journey takes him to London to a research fellowship at the British Library, the exact institution that now holds that original 1843 dictionary. I mean, he is literally at the scene of the crime, the origin point of the centuries-old misunderstanding. And you can just feel this in his poetry. He writes about that subtle friction of being a Nigerian in London, where your very accent demands constant speech repair, as he puts it, just to be understood. And this feeling goes way beyond just words. In his poem at the British Museum, he connects the linguistic displacement, what happened to Eshu's name, to the physical displacement of Nigerian artifacts, still locked there in glass panes. The colonial legacy isn't just in some dusty old book. It's right there on display.
But this journey of historical and personal discovery, well, it was about to collide head-on with the absolute chaos of the modern world. So you've got these three totally distinct moments all crashing into each other. The original act back in 1843, the poet's research in 2019, and then 2020, the year everything just shattered. Suddenly, the past became intensely, unavoidably present. Just as Tubasun was deep in his historical research, the present just erupted. First, the COVID-19 pandemic shuts down the entire world. And then, back home in Nigeria, the hashtag #EndSARS protests against police brutality reached this awful, tragic climax.
His poetry became his way of processing it all. During the pandemic, he captured that feeling of being trapped by watching astronauts escape the Earth, writing about hopes of those to whom the Earth is a wasted space. It's this powerful clash of total confinement and ultimate escape. And then, his focus snaps to the Lekki toll gate shooting in October 2020. This verse from Blood Spangled Banner is it's so raw. It perfectly captures the trauma and horror of that night, talking about ghosts of the nation's past and a flag stained with blood. And this makes it crystal clear. This isn't just abstract poetry.
The book is explicitly dedicated to the victims of the protests, like Jimo Isayak, and also to all language warriors everywhere, connecting that fight for social justice directly to the fight for linguistic truth. So all of this, the historical mistake, the personal journey, the global pandemic, the national trauma, it all funnels into this final, powerful collection of poetry. It becomes his response. And in his own words, the author says his goal was to use poetry to explore the tragedy and ambiguity that language creates in our lives. The mistranslation of Eshu becomes this perfect, powerful metaphor for that entire exploration.
And here it is, the final work, Eshu at the Library. It's the culmination of this whole incredible journey, a vessel holding history, travel, and the raw emotion of a world that was being turned upside down.
Which brings us all the way back to where we started, but now with a much deeper understanding. As the Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka wrote, Eshu is the dialectician of reality, the one who teaches us that truth is never, ever simple. He is the embodiment of ambiguity, not evil. And that really just leaves us with a final thought to chew on. This whole journey shows the profound, lasting damage a single word can inflict. But the poet's work also asks a powerful question. If a word truly has the power to wound for centuries, then what is its power to heal?